Welcome to the Atheist Witch Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast for witches or any curious minds to learn more about a non-theistic approach to witchcraft. Hello, curious and skeptical witches. Welcome to the final bonus Sabbath episode of the year, Yule. Deep down, I sometimes wish for a touch of that ancient magic, but for now, I find the real-world science of the solstice to be the most beautiful magic of all. As you know, I'm creating these bonus episodes ahead of all 8 Sabbats this year to share their history, traditions, and most importantly for us, how to celebrate them as an atheist witch. I hope these episodes can give non-theistic practitioners tangible ideas for honoring the turning of the wheel without needing to invoke any deities or supernatural entities. The observance of Yule in 2025 runs from December 21st through January 1st, aligning with the Winter Solstice and traditionally lasting for 12 days. This isn't just a quaint tradition, it's a profound astronomical event that marks the sun's lowest point in the sky and consequently the longest night of the year. Historically, Yule celebrates the impending return of the sun and the shift from the deep dark of the year towards the light. Ancient cultures recognized this critical moment, centering their festivals on fire and light to symbolically encourage the sun's return. For the atheist witch, this is a celebration of the verifiable scientific cycles of the earth. We recognize the immutable laws of planetary physics, and we find deep meaning in aligning our personal energy with that unwavering rhythm. The very name Yule, derived from similar-sounding Old Norse and Old English words, has roots deep in the Germanic and Norse traditions, predating Christianity by millennia. These were communities intimately familiar with the brutal reality of winter. Yuletide wasn't just a party, it was a festival of survival, marking the time when the deep reserves of food and fuel needed to be carefully managed, and the communal spirit was essential for enduring the cold. Some of the oldest stories associate this darkest time with figures like Odin leading the wild hunt, a spectral procession across the winter sky. This lore perfectly captures that psychological terror and wild energy of those long, dark nights. It reminds us that our ancestors created myths to explain the powerful unseen forces of the natural world. In this case, the fierce storms and the bitter cold. Many of the most beloved Yuletide customs have ancient, practical, or mythological roots. Take the Yule Log. This tradition involved bringing a massive log, often oak or ash, into the hearth and burning it for 12 days. The fire was an act of sympathetic magic. Keeping a powerful flame burning for the full duration of the darkest period was believed to literally encourage the sun to return to strength. After the burn, some of the ashes or an unburnt piece were kept as a protective charm against lightning or future bad luck. This linked the home's hearth to the enduring vitality of the forest. Bringing in the boughs of evergreens, like pine, fir, holly, and ivy, into the home was a literal act of preserving life during winter's death. It served as a powerful, necessary psychological comfort, a visible reminder that life would endure and would return again. Holly, with its fiery red berries, was a common symbol of the waning year, often represented mythologically as the Holly King being defeated by the Oak King or the sun. The Yuletide customs of feasting and giving were crucial community acts. Feasting wasn't just celebratory, it was a necessary showing of resources to boost morale, and gift-giving was a system of reciprocal support, ensuring that all members of the community had what they needed to survive the rest of the season. These traditions show us that the magic of Yule lies not in supernatural intervention, but in our own resilience, community, and intentional use of symbolism to navigate the strain of winter. When you string up lights or decorate a fir tree today, you're not just celebrating Christmas, you're participating in a 4,000-year-old tradition of bringing light and life into the darkest time. While this podcast focuses on atheist practice, focused on nature and psychology, it's helpful to know how other paths of modern pagans observe Yule. These traditions are rich sources of inspiration for rituals and celebration frameworks. For many Wiccans, Yule is the second Sabbath and is traditionally focused on the rebirth of the sun god, often symbolized by the cyclical battle between the Holly King, who rules the dark year, and the Oak King, who rules the light year. They celebrate the defeat of the Holly King and the rise of the Oak King, marking the point where light begins to grow stronger. Rituals often involve welcoming the sun with candle lighting and honoring the deity cycle. Adherents of Norse paganism, or heathenry, often celebrate Yule as a multi-day festival, sometimes focused on the 3 nights of the solstice. Celebrations include feasting, gift-giving, honoring ancestors, and performing ritual toasting and swearing of oaths, often with toasts directed towards deities like Odin. And across many pagan paths, common practices for Yule include holding an all-night vigil on the solstice eve, sitting around a fire or candlelight until dawn to physically welcome the returning sun. The Yule log remains a central practice, though it may be a small log of candles if they don't have a fireplace. Many also engage in modern practices like sunwait, a heathen advent, which involves lighting a new candle each week in the run-up to the solstice. For the atheist witch, Yule moves beyond literal deity-focused narratives and shifts instead to a profound psychological and naturalistic practice. This is a powerful time for deep introspection, recognizing your personal resilience, and nurturing your inner strength. The quiet darkness is an invitation for self-reflection and inner growth, preparing us for the energetic surge of the coming year. And we can draw psychological strength from the knowledge that light will always return, perfectly mirroring the reliable orbit of the Earth around the sun. As atheist witches, our magic is often psychological. There is no greater psychological certainty than the fact that the sun will return. Use the winter solstice as a ritual pivot point for your mental health, intentionally programming your mind towards optimism based on observable natural law. You could utilize this period of natural dormancy for strategic planning and envisioning future endeavors, treating it as the necessary rest before a period of action. And this is the perfect time to reinforce social bonds and celebrate warmth and kinship in the face of the cold. The emotional weight that many of us feel during this darkest part of the year has a real scientific basis. As daylight dwindles, our bodies respond physiologically. The pineal gland, often called the third eye in esoteric circles, is actually a light-sensitive gland. And as the days shorten, it starts releasing melatonin, which is the hormone that regulates sleep, earlier in the evening. This makes us feel tired, crave comfort, and naturally want to slow down. Seasonal affective disorder is a very real condition linked to the lack of light. Ignoring our natural cues to slow down can actually exacerbate these feelings of sadness or lethargy. The season's call to rest is not a luxury, it's a biological necessity. So honoring the cycle of rest is supporting your physical health, your mental clarity, and your emotional resilience. My practice for Yule is heavily centered around recognizing the longest night, embracing that rest, and clearly setting intentions for the year ahead. I do engage in the tradition of the Yule log, framing it as an act of intentional release and renewal. And I don't burn my log each year, but I do light candles atop it and they burn down, and I visualize myself releasing the struggles or failures of the past year and consecrating the flame to represent my internal spark and the promise of the coming dawn. I dedicate time to deep, quiet journaling and set intentions, recognizing the dormancy of winter as a powerful time to plan. I do observe the 12 days of Yule, not as a religious observance, but as a framework for a sustained daily practice, and I'll focus on a different personal intention each day. And it's always a great time to cozy up and do a little witchy reading and reflection. This time of year, my altar is dressed in materials that symbolize life enduring in the dark. This will include evergreens like pine, holly, fir branches, rich colors like deep greens and fiery reds, and a few golds and bright imagery to celebrate the returning of the sun. The key takeaway for this solstice is the transformative power of rest. We live in a society that constantly values doing, but science clearly shows the vital role of rest for cognitive function, memory consolidation, and mental health. You can use the winter solstice as your cue to pause, intentionally slow down, and honor the cycle of rest. Give yourself permission to truly rest. Reflect on the psychological benefits of embracing a period of low energy and quietude. This mirrors the Earth's natural cycles. You can perform a small candle meditation. Focus on the flame not as a god or a goddess, but as a symbolic representation of your own life force and resilience. You can enjoy warm, comforting foods and drinks. The seasonal correspondences of holly, ivy, and mistletoe are great, but so are hearty stews and baked goods that bring that feeling of warm hearth and stability. I wish you all a peaceful and deeply restorative Yule. That's all for today's bonus episode. Remember, the Earth is taking its rest, and so should you. Rest is not a luxury. It's the necessary, non-magical scientific fuel for next year's growth. Join me soon for our next full episode where we'll be discussing cycles of our world, exploring how solar, lunar, seasonal, and even personal life cycles impact our witchcraft practice. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.